welcome to English for You. I'm Kat.
I'm Mike.
Why'd you say it like that?
Well, you know, I got a lot of things going on in my life. I got to move this weekend.
Oh, I do too, actually.
I know, but yeah, I'm kind of moving somewhere bigger and kind of really nice. So it'd be great if you could be there at 10 o'clock to help me move the sofa and the fridge and the bed.
Well, that's the thing is I got to move at 11 o'clock, so I can't really do it.
But remember that time I helped you a couple months ago? And you said if I ever needed any help, I could let you know. I kind of need that help now.
I kind of feel like you're pressuring me. I already told you I had a commitment.
I did give you a big favor.
Oh, man.
And, you know, if you kind of say no this time, well, I'd have to wonder about, like, what kind of friend you are. And if you're really a nice person. I thought you were a nice person,
maybe, I don't know. I think I'm a nice person.
I don't know. Well, then you can help me move.
Okay,
and
fine.
Put your day off until next week?
Fine.
All right,
I'll tell the movers.
And by the way, next week I'm going to be out of town, so don't ask me.
You guys see what just happened here?
What?
I think you're emotionally blackmailing me.
No, I just asked you for a favor.
Exactly.
And put a lot of unfair and kind of evil pressure on you to make you feel bad if you said no.
Exactly.
That's emotional blackmail.
So see, I guess
oh my gosh,
right.
I did. I'm a terrible person.
Not a terrible person, but I think this is something that a lot of people either experience or they might accidentally be doing themselves.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of experiences or does it at one point in their lives.
Right, it does happen to people. And yes, as you say, you might do it to others. You might do it for what you think is a good reason, but maybe it is kind of unfair in that situation and you can get what you need without doing it.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about what is emotional blackmail, how do you avoid it, how do you know what it looks like, that kind of thing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the article today.
It's okay. I'm going to call some movers. You don't have to help
me. Okay.
Reading.
Don't be a victim of emotional blackmail. Have you ever been the victim of emotional blackmail or used it to control someone else? You might not even be conscious of it. Emotional blackmailers use fear, obligation, and guilt to influence the way someone acts. This usually happens between people in close relationships, like couples, parents and children, and close friends. First, the emotional blackmailer makes a demand like, "You must stop being friends with that person." You'll likely resist, which makes the emotional blackmailer put more pressure on the demand. They may make threats like, "If you see that person again, I'll stop loving you." If you obey, the emotional blackmailer will continue to have the upper hand. People who experience emotional blackmail learn that it's easier to give in than deal with constant threats and pressure. They feel afraid to disagree with their emotional blackmailers and feel an obligation to give in. They may feel the only way they can earn the other person's love is by letting them win.
All right, so the article starts out with a very important question today. Have you ever been the victim of emotional blackmail or used it to control someone else? That's a good question. But before we can answer it, we gotta talk about the word victim. Because a victim is kind of the opposite of doing it to somebody. A victim is a noun that means someone or something that gets hurt because of something unpleasant or because of something like emotional blackmail. So like if you get an illness, if you're in a car accident, you're a victim in that accident. Or if a person kind of tries to do something bad to you, like they try and cheat you, they try and steal from you, you are a victim of that person. So you can be a victim of emotional blackmail. That means somebody is trying to emotionally blackmail you. So an example sentence for victim. My grandma was the victim of a bank scam last year who fooled her into giving away her money. Ooh, that means that basically somebody called her on the phone and said like, "Oh, hey, I'm your grandson. I need some money right now. Please give me some." And then she did, and it wasn't her grandson. Yeah, they blackmailed her. And so blackmail is the kind of the operative word here. And it means making somebody, do what you want or give you money or something else by threatening them, basically. Like by saying, like, I'm going to tell people something bad about you, or I'm going to make you feel really bad if you don't do this for me. That's what blackmail is.
Exactly right. Now, of course, blackmail in real life would be a crime. If you write a letter to someone or send them a message or even talk to them and say, hey, I know you did something bad. I'll tell the whole world unless you give me money. That is actually a crime.
Yes.
But when you do it in your relationships, it's not a crime, but it certainly isn't very nice.
No, it's not.
Okay, so yeah, as we said, emotional blackmail, it might not be a crime, but it's not a nice thing to do. But even after we say that, the article does say you might not even be conscious of it. So if you do it because you're like, ooh, I'm going to make them feel bad, well, then you are conscious of it. But the article says you might not be. You might do it without even knowing that you're doing it. Because if you're conscious of something, this is one of our words, this is an adjective, it means you are aware. You do know about something. If you're awake, looking around, able to answer questions and see what's going on, you are conscious, all right? You know what's going on around you. If you stand up and get yourself a glass of water because you're thirsty, you're conscious of doing that. You're like, I'm going to get a glass of water. But sometimes we do things when we're unconscious or not conscious of something. If you're asleep, you're not conscious. If you get hit on the head and fall down, you're not conscious, you should go to a hospital. But if you do some other things, like maybe scratch or blink your eyes or move your head if someone jumps at you, you do those things without thinking about them. You do those things when you're not conscious of doing them. Maybe by accident, maybe by something happening, or maybe just because you're not really paying attention. For example, Pete wasn't conscious of the fact that he chews his fingernails when he is nervous. He's so busy thinking about what he's nervous about, he doesn't even notice. So he starts doing this and his mom's like, hey, don't chew your fingernails. And he says, I didn't even know I was doing it. I wasn't conscious of that fact.
All right. So, yeah, you might not be conscious.
True.
It's not always on purpose.
Right, but that doesn't mean it's okay.
No, of course. And because it's something that makes people feel bad. So the article says emotional blackmailers use fear, obligation, and guilt.
My favorite.
To influence the way someone acts. So we have three different things. You guys know what fear is. It's being afraid. But we also have obligation. Obligations are usually something you have to do, maybe because like it's a chore that you have at home. But it can also be something that you feel like you must do because it's the right thing to do, or because it's your responsibility to do it. So like if Mike was moving this weekend and I helped him a couple of months ago and he's saying to me, well, you have an obligation to help me because I helped you before because that's the right thing for you to do. They're trying to use that against you to try and make you do something for them. And they could also use guilt. Guilt is a bad feeling caused by thinking or knowing that you did something bad or wrong.
Like when I was saying, I might think that you're a bad person.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you guilt so that you feel, oh, I have to do this now.
Yeah. It's almost like the word shame, but shame I think is a little bit different.
Right. You don't want to feel bad, so you're going to go and do it. Because if you don't, you'll feel bad. That's the guilt that you will feel. Well, back to the article. Now, of course, this is something that doesn't happen that much between strangers. If some person I don't know walks up and says, you have to help me or I'll think you're a bad person, I'll say, I don't know who you are.
I don't care.
Go away. Exactly. So as the article says, this usually happens between people in close relationships, like couples, parents, and children, and close friends. Yeah, it wouldn't work on strange people because they don't care if you don't like them or if you
don't care if they don't like you.
Exactly, right. But if it's your family, if it's a couple, people who are in a relationship, friends, all of those people, well, it might actually work on them. And that's why it's not okay to do it.
Yeah, I think that this is something that sometimes parents will do to their children, especially.
Oh, sure.
I raised you. I gave you food and clothes, so you have to do this for me.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was in the hospital for 19 hours giving birth to you, and you do this to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I gave you life.
So, I mean, that's one example, but the article says, what are they going to do when they emotionally blackmail you? So this is what you have to look out for. First, the emotional blackmailer makes a demand, like you must stop being friends with that person. Yikes. If somebody's telling you to stop being friends with somebody, that's kind of not a good thing.
That's quite a demand.
Yeah, it is a very forceful demand. So we have to find out, what does demand mean? Let's take a look. When someone gives you a demand, or when they demand something of you, we can use it as a noun or a verb. It's basically giving you a really forceful or really tough or strong statement. Then they say you have to do something, and that the person who's demanding it says that something has to be done, or you have to give it to them. So you might say to somebody, I demand your money. That means you are telling them they have to give you money. Or if somebody makes a demand for maybe your friendship, they're saying, you have to be my friend. And it's, it's a very forceful thing. They're not asking politely. They're not saying please. It's something that will be very strong, and people don't usually respond to them very well.
Okay, now of course, when sometimes people make a demand on you, that might be okay. It might not bother you so much, but if someone is saying, hey, don't be friends with that person or I won't like you, that's not really okay.
I remember some kids did that to me in elementary school. Yeah.
Okay. And what happened? Did you resist?
Yeah, I did.
Good. Good for you. All right. Well, that's what the article says. You'll likely resist. If someone asks you something unfair like that, you'll likely say, no, I don't want to do what you're asking. That would be to resist. You'll likely resist. No, which makes the emotional blackmailer put more pressure on the demand. They won't normally go, oh, okay, sorry I asked. They'll go, really? Well, now you're going to really hurt my feelings or something. They're going to do something to put more pressure on you. Okay, now when we talk about pressure, this is a noun, and if we're talking about, science, we're talking about the force that pushes in on something, all right? So if you take an empty can and you squeeze it, you're putting pressure, and that forces the inside towards itself. If we're talking about emotional pressure, though, we're talking about sort of the feeling of the world pushing down on you, your life, your emotions, your happiness. If you have a lot of things to do and very little time, if you feel like I can't make any mistakes, this has to be perfect, you're putting pressure on yourself. Your teachers or parents or your boss might put pressure on you. And of course, that makes you feel nervous and stressed and can stop you from eating or sleeping or being happy in your life. That's the kind of pressure, emotional, not physical pressure, but emotional pressure we're talking about here. For example, my mother feels a lot of pressure at work, and it's making her unhappy from her boss, from the schedule, from the coworkers, the customers. All of that kind of emotional pressure can make people unhappy. And if you're doing it to your friends and there's not really a good reason to do it for any reason, it's not nice.
No, it's not nice. And, pressure doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Like, you can get some pressure and it'll make you, work a little harder, work a little faster. It'll make you feel like, okay, I can't be lazy right now. I have a deadline in 2 days, so I'm going to work hard, that kind of thing. So there can be good pressure, but this is not good pressure. So the article says they may make threats like, if you see that person again, I'll stop loving you.
Ooh.
That's not something you can do.
Oh, that's kind of harsh.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they will make threats. And you can tell by what I said that a threat is a statement saying that somebody's going to be hurt if they don't do what you want them to do. If they don't do what you're asking them, demanding they do, that they'll be hurt. Either they'll be hurt emotionally because you're going to take your love away, or maybe, there can also be threats of things like violence, where you say, I'm going to literally punch you in the head. I'm going to sometimes people might threaten to kill you.
Hurt you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like actually hurt your body. So it can be hurting your emotions. It can be hurting your body. That's making a threat. So a threat is something that could potentially harm you. And that's not a good thing. And you don't want people who love you, supposedly, to make threats against you. So an example sentence could be, Alice became scared when her ex-boyfriend started making threats against her and her family.
My goodness, saying he might do something bad to them or their pets or their home or something like that just because he's angry and wants to hurt them in some way. All right, back to the article. Now it says, if you obey the emotional blackmailer will continue to have the upper hand. Well, that's kind of the problem with this, is that if you obey, if you do what this person is asking, if you sort of follow their unfair rules or follow their unfair demands, then you're giving power. The emotional blackmailer will continue to have the upper hand. When we use the expression upper hand, we're basically saying this person has power over you. They have the upper hand. And that is, of course, only if you obey them and not if you resist. All right, so yes, if you resist something, if you resist someone's demands, you are saying no, you are pushing back, fighting back, you are not doing what they say. But if you do what they say, you are obeying them. Now, sometimes this is okay, and it can help us avoid trouble. If the policeman tells you to move along, you should obey. Otherwise, you could be in trouble. If your teacher, your parents, someone like that says, hey, I need you to do this, or the rules say you must do this, then you should probably do it and obey, as long as it's not an unfair rule or something that will hurt you or others. We follow the rules. We obey the rules. We don't break the rules or, do something illegal. For example, most people in Taiwan obeyed all the rules about wearing face masks. Yeah, in that situation, it was good that everyone obeyed the rules, and that's why we didn't have such a big problem with COVID-19. Right, and as I mentioned, they're having the upper hand in a situation basically means you have control over the situation. You have an advantage, you have an edge. If someone's going to win, it's more likely to be you. And of course, that can be okay, especially when you're, sort of fighting or competing against someone who is trying to emotionally blackmail you. You don't want to give them the upper hand, because then you'll always do what they want.
Exactly, yeah. So you don't want to make sure that the person isn't able to keep having power over you.
Right.
So the article says people who experience emotional blackmail learn that it's easier to give in than deal with constant threats and pressure. Yeah, because usually somebody who will use emotional blackmail will use it more than one time.
Right.
They'll use it a lot. And they might, it gets tiring. Like it makes you feel tired because you have to constantly push back. So it might feel easier to give in. And to give in means to stop trying to fight somebody or stop trying to resist something. And you're like, okay, fine, I'll do it. You give in. It's basically like, I stop fighting you. I'm going to do what you want just because I'm tired. And if you don't give in, then you might have to continue dealing with the threats, which means you have to kind of put up with them. You have to be patient with them. You have to push back against them. You have to continue working to solve the problem in a way that doesn't involve giving in.
That's right. And of course, you'll kind of be living with this type of situation happening again and again, and that can certainly make you feel unhappy. Now, back to the article, it says, these are the victims of emotional blackmail, the people that happens to, they feel afraid to disagree with their emotional blackmailers and feel an obligation to give in. So if you always do that, you're like, yes, I'm tired. I don't want to fight. I'll just agree. It'll just make it easier. I'm afraid to disagree because every time I do disagree, we have a big fight and I end up losing anyways. Because to disagree is to not agree, to have a different idea or a different opinion. When someone says, I think we should do this, and you think there are problems with that idea, and you say, I don't think we should do that. You are disagreeing with that person. These are generally things where it's okay to have different opinions, all right? Now, if someone says, I think I will smoke in the restaurant, and I would say, I disagree. You can't decide to do that. There's one way, don't smoke, and then there's no other good way.
Because you can't legally do it.
Because you can't do it. You can't disagree with the police when they tell you to put on a mask or wear a seatbelt in your car. You have to do it. But
you can, but you'll get a fine or go to jail or,
Right. But in other situations, you can have two different opinions and both people can be right in their own way. And so in those cases, it's okay to disagree. For example, Mavis and her boyfriend disagreed about what kind of pizza to order. There are many kinds of pizza. There's not just one right kind of pizza, although Hawaiian pizza is always wrong.
Oh, okay. If you say so. I disagree with you. But
no!
I mean, you can go halvesies. You can do half and half pizza. That's a good solution.
It's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So if you're afraid to disagree with somebody who's emotionally blackmailing you, the article says you may feel, the only way they can earn the other person's love is by letting them win.
Or the only way you can keep your job is by letting your boss win when he or she emotionally blackmails you. Yeah, the only way you can stay even kind of happy in the relationship is to always let the other person win, always give them the upper hand. But remember, you're putting yourself in a pretty bad situation.
In this sentence, we can also see we have this grammar pattern. The only way they can earn the other person's love is by letting them win. So we see this word by followed by let with an ing, or ting in this case. This is a grammar pattern where we use to show how something is done. We can use by with a verb with ing form, or we can use with and a noun. So you might do two different ways. Let's see how it's done. So for example, with by and ving, you made my birthday so much better by giving me a gift. By giving here is this is how you made my birthday better, because you gave me a gift. And with and a noun, we can do this. People eat this food with chopsticks, not a fork. So we don't say with ving or by a noun. We can only say by ving or with a noun. So by giving me a gift with chopsticks.
All right, well, that's it for the article. I think we do have a chat question after this.
Do.
So let's check that out.
For you chat.
Okay, so our chat question is actually about someone who might be an emotional blackmailer. Now, we're not asking you to talk about someone in your life, so if it's your grandmother, you don't have to mention it. What we're going to do is pick a character from a movie or TV show or book or something like that who you think is an emotional blackmailer, and then give some examples of why you think this.
Okay. One character who comes to mind is actually not from a movie or TV show. It's from a video game.
A video game?
Yes.
All right.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, well, that
5.
video game, it's kind of like a movie. It's got lots of characters and a great story.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a video game character.
Yeah, so I think of, well, I guess there's two of them, but the first one I thought of was Franklin's aunt.
Oh, he lives with her at the beginning of the game.
At the beginning of the game, Franklin lives with his aunt.
Oh, that's right.
And she always tells him, I took you in when your parents didn't want you, and you owe me, and you are always going in and out. You never do anything for me. She guilts him a lot.
She's always exercising with her friends and making him feel bad because he doesn't give her more time and attention, doesn't pay for enough stuff. That's true. She is kind of an emotional blackmailer. Very good. I was thinking that maybe Ross in Friends might kind of be an emotional blackmailer when
we were on a break.
When he's dating with Rachel, but I'm not sure. It's been a while. But anyways, you get the idea. Someone who's always using these tricky ways to get other people to do exactly what they want. Well, there you go, guys. So give some examples of why you think some character that you know from a game, TV show, movie, whatever, might be an emotional blackmailer. And please do come back tomorrow because we're going to have more about this. And if you don't come back tomorrow, we're going to be really sad and you're going to hurt our feelings a lot and we're not sure we're going to like you. So
you don't want to do that, do you?
I hope you do the right thing because I kind of like you now, but I don't know if I will then.
I mean, it depends on what you do. You might still have friends tomorrow and you might not. It's
Wouldn't
up to you.
Wouldn't want to hurt our feelings, would you? See you tomorrow.
See you then.
Vocabulary Review.
Victim. Kim and his family were the victims of a robbery, which left them nervous and afraid for months. Conscious. Marcella is conscious of the way people stare at her because she's so tall. Pressure. Due to the pressure from her boss, Jane decided to quit her job. Threat. The manager often receives threats from Jackson. He often says that he'll quit the team, but he never does it. Obey. Josie's dog was never trained, so he won't even obey simple commands like "come here." Disagree. My parents and I disagree about how often I should clean my room. They think I should clean it every day, but I think once a week is enough.
字汇小补帖
Blackmail. Obligation. Guilt. Demand.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net